Next on the news. A busy day for Pope Francis during his historic trip to Bahrain, all to push for interreligious dialogue. The FBI identifying a suspect behind a serious security threat to synagogues in New Jersey. And he's a Vietnam veteran who served his country, and he's taking on another test of his strength.
Training for a marathon is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Mike's doing it for the 43rd time. I'm Jessica Easthope. His story's coming up. That's if I can catch him. Mike, wait up!
Plus, students across the country being asked to write a pro-life essay. We'll tell you what you can win and how you can sign up. I'm Christine Persichetti. This special edition of Currents News starts right now. A warm welcome for Pope Francis at an ecumenical meeting and prayer for peace in Bahrain. The Holy Father ending his second day on the island nation with that prayer for peace, and it came after delegations from about 60 countries participated in the Bahrain Forum for Dialogue. Pope Francis visited the Cathedral of Our Lady of Arabia in Awali, the largest Catholic church in the Arabian Peninsula. Alongside the leader of the Eastern Orthodox Church, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, the Pope addressed Bahrain's minority Christian community to give them advice on staying uplifted in spirit despite being small in numbers.
La preghiera di lode è l'antidoto alla tristezza, alla tentazione di lasciarsi turbare dalla nostra pochezza interiore e dalla pochezza esteriore dei nostri numeri. Qui loda non bada alla piccolezza del gregge, ma alla bellezza di essere i piccoli del Padre.
Passages from both the Quran and the Book of Genesis were read before the Pope's meeting with the Muslim Council of Elders, an independent and international organization promoting peace in the global Islamic community. Francis said it's incumbent upon people of all faiths to be united and go beyond their communities as beacons of hope in a world threatened by international conflicts and climate change.
Noi che discendiamo da Abramo, padre nella fede delle genti, non possiamo avere a cuore soltanto i nostri, ma sempre più uniti dobbiamo rivolgerci all'intera comunità umana che abita la terra.
Earlier in the day, the Holy Father closed the Bahrain Forum for Dialogue, East and West for Human Coexistence, and visited the Garden for the Tree of Peace. During his speech, Pope Francis proposed 3 challenges to help connect people worldwide: prayer, education, and action. He said prayer removes selfishness and injustice, education breaks down barriers, and action is necessary to build fraternity. He emphasized the importance of not sailing alone on this journey of fraternity. He called religious leaders to come together to find true peace.
Perché non basta dire che una religione è pacifica, occorre condannare e isolare i violenti che ne abusano in nome. E nemmeno è sufficiente prendere le distanze dall'intolleranza e dall'estremismo, bisogna agire in senso contrario.
Pope Francis explained that also means opposing and not funding arms development and the business of war. This weekend will be a jam-packed one for the Pope. On Saturday, there will be a Mass at Bahrain National Stadium, and then Francis will meet with young people from Sacred Heart School. On Sunday, the Pope will meet and pray with bishops, priests, and other religious at Sacred Heart Church in Manama before departing back to Rome. Be sure to stay with Currents News and the tablet for continuing coverage of the Pope's first ever trip to Bahrain. And Monday on Currents News, we will wrap up all the Pope's events this weekend with senior correspondent for Crux, Elise Allen. She's been following and reporting on the Holy Father during his historic trip to Bahrain. Elise will wrap up all the events, including what it means for Christians in the country and the Pope's mission for peace. That's Monday on Currents News. The tablet newspaper is gaining a top-notch veteran journalist. Carol Zimmerman will be joining the team. For 30 years, Carol has been a reporter with Catholic News Service, covering major events in the Catholic world, such as the election of Pope Francis, and stories that have topped secular newscasts like Hurricane Katrina. Carol will be officially joining the Tablet team in January, but before she begins this new and exciting chapter in her career, I spoke with her about her journey this far and some of her highlights covering Catholic news.
I'd have to say I've liked everything from the really big to the really small. I mean, over the years, I've covered a lot of big events like World Youth Days, and when a Pope has come to the United States, we've covered him from the second he lands to the second he flies off, and everything public anyway. I've also loved being with people, say, with cloistered nuns for a day, or being with people that say they pray perpetual adoration and they go every Wednesday night, say at 3 a.m. It's the big and small. Like, why do people wait for hours to see the Pope? And I feel like all of those things kind of come together, that it's just, it's not so much that the Pope is here, but it's that all the Catholics are there to see the Pope. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And now with Catholic News Service shutting down its operations in the U.S. at the end of this year, why is Catholic journalism so important now more than ever? Well,
I feel like what we've done here at CNS, and for your viewers, I don't know if everyone gets what CNS is, but we've been we call ourselves the Associated Press of the Catholic press. That we from our little meager staff, we send out stories that cover all that's going on in the church. And so what we've done is unite people. I think for all of our differences, we have things in common, like someone in one borough versus another, or one state versus another. But what brings them together and what's at the root of it is their Catholic faith. And I think that's what Catholic journalism has tried to do.
How is Catholic journalism different from just watching secular media or reading a secular newspaper?
That's a good question. We try to tell the story of what's happening, but it's through the lens of faith. Mm-hmm. So it's not just covering a parade, say, but it's the people that are at the event, and they're at the event because their faith compels them. So it's more, we could be covering the same exact thing, but we're telling it through a lens of faith, that why people's faith has motivated them. Or say after a tragedy, say after Hurricane Katrina, people were trying to rebuild, but maybe they were relying on their faith to get them through it. So, or maybe they were relying on their faith people of faith were providing food and spiritual resources, but also practical resources. So we just add that element.
Yeah. And, we are so excited that you're joining us here at DeSales Media Group in January. So tell us, why did you decide to join the Tablet team, and what are you looking forward to most?
Well, I'm thrilled to join. I think, I've been at CNS for a long time, and the Tablet's been around for a long time. And what we do we're still telling the stories of faith, but there's just so much more that we can do, and you guys have already been doing so much of it. So I just feel like I'm jumping on a train that's already moving, and I hope I can add to it, and I hope I can learn from whatever you guys are doing, and just be part of that, telling the story of faith, telling the story of how people live their lives, and with faith as part of it.
That was journalist Carol Zimmerman, and we want to congratulate Carol on this new position. We're sure she'll continue the amazing work the Tablet already does. 2 retired NYPD veterans are now among the newest members of Brooklyn's Diocesan Review Board. Bishop Robert Brennan has selected Robert Boyce, a 35-year veteran of the department, to become the new chair of the board. Boyce has held numerous positions within the NYPD, with the most recent being the chief of detectives. Bishop Brennan also appointed Joseph Fox to join the team. Fox has over 37 years of experience with the NYPD, having served 21 of those years as a chief. The Diocesan Review Board is comprised of lay independent professionals who assist the bishop in determining and responding to allegations of sexual abuse of minors. If you're interested in learning about how the Diocesan Review Board operates and learn more about the other members on the team, visit thetablet.org for more details. Hours after issuing a warning about a security threat to New Jersey synagogues, the FBI has identified the suspect they believe is responsible. It's not clear whether authorities have taken the man into custody, but while speaking to Jewish faith leaders Friday morning, federal officials said the suspect no longer poses a threat to the community. Synagogues in the Garden State went on high alert Thursday afternoon. That's when the Newark FBI office posted a warning on Twitter saying it received credible information of a broad threat. It's a hate crime investigation at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The NYPD is searching for the man who threw a wrench through the glass door at the residence of New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan. It's the latest crime making headlines that is stoking the fears of New Yorkers, and the Cardinal has a message for them. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more from Midtown.
The glass door at Cardinal Dolan's residence at St. Patrick's Cathedral here on Madison Avenue has been replaced with a wooden board. Police are still searching for the person who threw a wrench into it Friday, an incident that's being investigated as a hate crime. These cameras captured it. The man in this video looking around before hurling a metal tool at the front door of Cardinal Timothy Dolan's home. Cardinal Dolan wasn't there when it happened. He says the incident is giving him an even better understanding of the sentiment being expressed to him from the faithful across the city.
They tell me, I hear them all the time wherever I go, parishes, schools, meetings, hospitals, nursing homes. They tell me, you know, Cardinal Dolan, we're scared walking the streets, we're scared at our schools. And now we're even scared in our homes.
The attack is part of a rise in crime and disturbing trend. According to the NYPD, religion was the motivation of 8 hate crimes in all of 2021. In the first 10 months of this year, that number has jumped to 21.
Unfortunately, a chapter of this whole rise in violence in our beloved country is that there's a lot of hate crimes, and a lot of hate crimes against religion, which stands for peace and unity and reconciliation. That's what's particularly tragic.
In addition to surveillance video, police have also released these pictures of the suspect. Cardinal Dolan says he hopes he gets the help he needs.
Part of my gut says, oh, they ought to throw him in jail. The other gut says he's probably some mentally challenged guy that needs some help. That doesn't mean he should be out on the street, thank God. Or he shouldn't be on the street. But darn it, he needs some compassionate care so that these people are not as erratic and destructive as they apparently are. We need to help them.
Despite what may have been a targeted attack at him, Cardinal Dolan says he feels for other victims of crime.
So maybe this will help me have more compassion and sensitivity to these wonderful people who are suffering. Compared to what's happened with so many citizens of this city, this wasn't so bad, so I try to look at the bright side. And maybe it's good for me to have more of a sensitivity to some of the apprehension that our people are feeling.
That was Jessica Easthope reporting. The NYPD has identified the suspect in this case. Police say they are searching for 28-year-old Juan Velez. Investigators say Velez is also wanted for ripping a flag outside All Saints Episcopal Church and for throwing an unknown object at the Archdiocese of New York's building on First Avenue. And if you have information, you can call the the Crime Stoppers tip line. That number 800-577-TIPS. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was released from the hospital Thursday, 1 week after he was attacked in a brutal home invasion. The 82-year-old underwent surgery to repair a fractured skull and injuries to his right arm and hands after the attack last Friday. David DePape now faces state and federal charges in the attack. He's accused of trying to kidnap a U.S. official. There's a lot more news headed your way. A Vietnam veteran lacing up his sneakers for the 43rd time for this weekend's New York City Marathon. While you may be seeing law enforcement at your polling place come Election Day. And after more than 4 decades of keeping her kids safe, a much-loved crossing guard has decided to hang up her stop sign for one last time.
I call this the power of positive addiction.
He is focused with faith, a veteran taking on another challenge in his life. When you've spent time in Vietnam, 26 miles is no problem. Mike Rao bravely served his country. Now he's taking on another test of his strength this weekend as he runs his 43rd New York City Marathon. And at 75 years old, Mike's willpower is stronger than ever. Currents News' Jessica Easthope caught up with Mike ahead of the race.
There's a hand grenade you can see in the front.
For years, Mike Rao was running from something.
While I hold my M16 rifle.
He was 19 when he was handed an Army uniform and a rifle and shipped off to Vietnam.
There's 2 years of my life that I wanted to initially erase and perhaps be able to bury some of the worst part of that experience.
His days were split between exchange of fire in a muddy foxhole and chopping through dense jungle, tracking an enemy that was also tracking him.
When you're tracking something movement is what catches the eye. Learning how to be still and blend in, or at least move slowly and quietly, that would be more the focus.
But this Queens kid hasn't stayed still since. In a few days, Mike will run his 43rd New York City Marathon. Among the so-called streakers, he's got the third most in the history of the race.
If it were easier, I might not have been so enamored with it.
Mike ran his first marathon in 1978, 9 years after his return from Vietnam. Once he pushed through that tape, he was hooked.
We might call this the power of positive addiction.
The endorphins of a runner's high still catch up to Mike, but no moment has been more glorious than the 1982 marathon.
I'm sprinting, both feet off the ground, my finisher's medal at the time, just what I had hoped for. 2 hours.
In his runner's tool belt for all these years is the focus he found in a foxhole in Vietnam.
That mental focus and the call for your faith. Brooklyn started the race. You can't go more than a couple of blocks without seeing a steeple. This is my New Balance shirt.
Wearing his sponsored gear, Mike will be bolting through the city of churches once again.
I'll see a church spire, and that's the trigger.
His only goal for this marathon is to get to the finish line. But he says if his faith has taught him anything, in life, the finish line doesn't exist. On City Island, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
And we are certainly wishing Mike good luck for Sunday. And if you're interested in more stories just like Mike's, then be sure to join us next Friday, November 11th, as we celebrate Veterans Day. We'll have a special show completely dedicated to the veterans and service members living in our community. Again, that's right here on Currents News. With the midterm elections just days away, the presence of law enforcement is becoming a much more common sight at polling places across the country. And while some say it's a tactic to address voter intimidation, others believe it's doing just the opposite. Drew Griffin is in Berks County, Pennsylvania, and has more on how voters there are handling the situation.
Early voting in Berks County, Pennsylvania is underway.
Is that your ballot?
Where voters face a short questioning by an armed sheriff deputy before they drop their early ballot in a secured ballot box.
He just asked if those were our ballots, and we said yes.
You would think this is in response to some sort of vote fraud that took place in Berks County, but it is not.
It's about giving voters confidence that this is a safe place to vote.
County officials said there were no security issues with drop boxes, yet by September, they adopted a new policy of deputies questioning voters.
Anytime that you have uniformed and armed law enforcement around places where people are trying to vote, that raises a dangerous risk that you'll cross the line into intimidation.
What's happening in Berks County is part of an alarming trend of law enforcement becoming involved in elections across the country. Some sheriffs say they plan to safeguard the midterm elections, even though that is normally the duty of election officials.
Law enforcement meddling in elections throughout history in this country has been used for oppressing black voters, other minority populations, and the signaling there is we don't trust you, we think you're cheating.
Back to those deputies in Berks County. Pennsylvania's interim Secretary of State warned the county to not station deputy sheriffs outside of ballot drop boxes in Berks County and to refrain from stopping and questioning prospective voters. That didn't happen. Fact is, this is a county that went for Trump. There is no vote fraud. The deputies are nice. Voters don't seem to mind the deputies.
Because of everything that has gone on with the contentious things happening, that's perfectly fine. If it makes people feel better, great.
But remember, people should have already felt great about the last election in Berks County. It was secure, it was fair. Unnecessarily having armed deputies guard this election may be sending an entirely different message.
It sends this broader message that our elections aren't secure, that there's widespread fraud. We, the law, need to be there to ensure that's not the case.
That was Drew Griffin reporting. While the sheriff for New York City is an appointed position for a majority of the country, a sheriff is an elected official. And if you're still considering how to vote next week, then just turn to the U.S. bishops. They want you to take part in the process and to vote with your conscience. So they created a teaching document. To read it, just go to usccb.org and search for Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship. That's the name of the document. Inside, there are pages of resources, goals for Catholics, and outlines of major issues. Still to come on Currents News, she's been keeping them safe for more than 40 years. Now, a much-loved crossing guard is saying goodbye to her kids as she heads into retirement. And looking to get published, students nationwide being asked to write a pro-life essay. We'll tell you what you can win. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. It was a bittersweet moment for Catholic school students in Maryland after one beloved crossing guard turned in her stop sign and hung up her yellow vest, finally deciding to retire after 4 decades of serving the community. Brianna Ross is in Baltimore and joined the retiring 85-year-old on her last day of work.
Go ahead.
Miss Janice Janicki carries her stop sign and wears her bright yellow vest with pride for the very last time. For the past 44 years, she's dedicated her mornings and afternoons to keeping kids safe, greeting them with smiles and love as they cross the intersection of South Highland and Foster Avenue.
I really enjoy my job, I'll put it that way. I love kids, and I make sure they're safe. I give them all a hug in the morning. I feel like a celebrity. It really makes me feel great. Hi, hon. You spied on me in today. Aww.
Miss Janice became a crossing guard when her son started school. She's loved it ever since.
Have a good one, babe.
She treats every kid like her own.
I love my kids, believe me. And I see many a kid grow up, get married. So I'm really going to miss them.
The feeling is mutual for students, staff, and parents alike.
Miss Janice knows the kids by name, she knows the parents, and they're always looking forward to giving her hugs just like that.
The whole community is going to feel the loss. There was a group of parents who got together to put something together for her and posted it on Facebook, and there were tons of comments just basically saying like how much she meant to everyone, and people who had been crossing with her like years ago.
On Monday, the community showed Miss Janice just how much she means to them.
These girls are going to make me cry.
From flowers to cards to gifts.
Oh my God! Bingo dollars! Yes!
All to send Miss Janice into retirement with as much love as she's shown them.
Now I'm going to rest, hopefully.
But she's not saying goodbye to this corner for good. Miss Janice says she'll still stop by every now and then to greet her kids with a big smile, a big hug, and a whole lot of love.
That was Brianna Ross reporting. The school Janice worked at, Archbishop Borders School, also expressed their gratefulness to the beloved crossing guard, wishing her the best in retirement. And finally, are you a student looking for a chance to be published? Then you're in luck. All you have to do is write a pro-life paper on protecting the sanctity of human life. That may sound easy enough, but middle and high schoolers are actually given different prompts for this contest. 5th through 8th graders are being asked about their favorite pro-life saint, while high schoolers must answer what they would say to someone who advocated for abortion. Contestants have a chance to see their writing in Celebrate Life magazine, but if that isn't a big enough incentive, there's also a cash prize of up to $250. All essays are due November 7th, no later than 11:59 p.m. For more information or to submit your paper, just go to prolifeessay.com, and good luck. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.